Hello students, welcome to the YouTube channel of Get Set Law by IMS. I'm your verbal ability mentor Sanjana ma'am, and this time around I thought of doing a new series wherein I'm going to teach you how to decode or how to read and effectively understand an editorial. As is known, reading editorials is the very first thing somebody would suggest if you are keen on doing well in an examination which is very big on reading comprehension, right? In this case, we're specifically focusing on CLAT and other law entrance examinations. But more than that, also, there is one query that I often receive from my students, which is, ma'am, how to read an editorial effectively? How much time am I expected to give to a single editorial or a write up? Right? Now, again, here I have two diverse opinions. My first opinion is that reading as an activity is very enriching in itself. So, if you have the luxury of time, I'd suggest for any given article, you take however long it takes, especially if you are a beginner, and you may choose to read the article verbatim or word for word, because you're not just focusing on understanding the meaning of the passage, you also want to learn some new words, right? You want to improve your vocabulary, and you also want to learn some bit of sentence construction. But let's just say you're right halfway through CLAT preparation or any other examination, and you want to be able to just read the editorial within a set span of 4 to 5 minutes. Then yes, you can do that as well, which is by skipping some of the information which is irrelevant and only focusing on the main points that are mentioned in the passage. Now, how to identify the main points, what are the things that you need to focus on, is essentially what I'm going to teach you today going forward. So here I have extracted an article from the Indian Express. It's from 18 June. If you have the e-paper on you, well and good. If not, if you have the actual paper, you can just choose to read it along with me, or you can just choose to ignore both since I already have the passage displayed here on the screen. All right. Now, a couple of things I want you to keep in mind. Number one is, when you read, always focus on the title here. Title of the passage. Why title is important is because in CLAT, as you might know, and in other exams that focus on reading comprehension, title-based questions can very often appear. So what is a good title? A good title is one which to some extent conveys the main idea. So can I say, when I do read this title and the subtitle given right under, I might know some bit about the main idea. Let's read it, which is language of inclusion. Now, again, this is slightly broad. I still am not able to maybe understand what the passage will say ahead. But when I read this part, children thrive in their mother tongue, but only if no one is left. Okay, so what I can infer from a mere reading of these two statements is that the passage might focus on language and making languages more inclusive, or learning languages more inclusive, which means the passage generally must be having a point wherein somebody or the other, some section or the other section, is being left out in the society. Right? So that's it. The passage will primarily focus on the importance of language and why it is important to make learning languages inclusive. Again, I cannot be 200% sure. It's just through a mere reading of this title that I'm able to derive some information from it. Now, so this is the first thing that you need to focus on. Second thing is that, and very often not everybody is going to tell you this, always focus on a little bit on the background of the author, also because it's given, and also because when you do read it, you will understand how to decode a question which will ask you to tell the profession of the author. Which of the following is most likely to be the profession of the author? See, I'm trying to tell you how through every passage we can fashion some n number of questions that generally get asked in law entrance examinations in the reading comprehension section. Right? So here, if I see the writer works in education, social cohesion, and religious amity, he's presently some fellow with a certain organization. I will not go into the binaries of it, but some bit that I know about the author now is that he's associated with the education sector. Maybe, right? So this way I have gotten the second information which can be useful if a certain question related to it is fashioned out of the passage. Now, what else to focus on? When you do not really have a lot of time, why don't you just read this as well? It says at times our rhetoric becomes too grand and we end up ignoring core issues. All right, till this part again, I'm not able to understand a lot that the passage might convey. But when you start reading from here, nearly 9 lakh regular teaching posts in government schools are vacant. this problem has persisted with fluctuating numbers for decades. What does multilingualism, right? Lingualism, which is again related to languages. Lingua is language, right? Multilingualism is multiple languages. This is how you use word etymology. Don't you see how it comes in handy, right? So what does this mean for children studying in such under-resourced schools? Through a bare reading of this part itself, students, I'm able to focus in some very important keywords. Multilingualism, under-resourced schools. So definitely here the author is trying to incorporate some complaints that he might have towards the education system. Can I say that the passage might, again, I'm using the word might because I haven't read the entire passage yet, right? Might shed some light on the gaps in our education system. Now, again, let me tell you, this is a very broad idea that I'm deriving, but even if you're able to do this much, I think a substantial part of your job is done. Now, let's start reading it. And I will not choose to read everything word for word, but you're already having the passage here in front of you. But still, I tried because, maybe this is the first time that I'm doing it. Let me still do everything sequentially. Now, this is the first passage here, which according to me has to be the introduction. Introduction has to come in the beginning, right? It says it is universally acknowledged that young children learn best through their mother tongue. All right, I think this is a very simple statement. I will not want to break it down. There can be no two opinions on the research findings cited in the National Education Policy 2020, which states that children pick up languages extremely quickly between the ages of 2 and 8. Right, so there is one thing about the NEP 2020 which states that children picking up languages extremely quickly between the ages of 2 and 8 and promises that all languages will be taught in an enjoyable and interactive style. Now, this information here just tells us some of the features of the NEP 2020, right? And the features are quite easy to understand. They just promote the utility of languages and how it is important to learn languages, be able to learn it in a very enjoyable and interactive manner. Simple. You need not focus more on it, right? Given my long association with the education sector, I'm, however, uncomfortable with some of the ideas being put forward. What did I just say? By a mere reading of this, I was at least able to highlight that this author here is definitely wanting to shed light on the gaps in the education system. And he's already, as has been explicitly mentioned here, in this very part, that he's already associated with the education sector and he has some complaints. Right? This is how you read, by a mere reading of some important points. And I can tell this is a very important point, which is why it's mentioned here, right? You can be able to arrive at important ideas that might be very relevant to some of the questions, right? All right. So this is the introduction. Per se, I still do not know what exactly the author has a problem with, right? So I can say that this introduction is not so important. So you need not read this bit word for word. I will not give more than 20 to 30 seconds to read this. This is how you have to read it. I will not give more than 20 to 30 seconds to read this. I will quickly scan through it. Whatever is important, which is essentially the features of the NEP that are highlighted, is what I will learn. Now read here. The NEP lists another feature, right? Another ideology, another policy that the NEP might want to promote, which is multilingualism. Multilingualism, like I said, multiple languages, right? Wanting to learn multiple languages. And the power of language in teaching and learning as a fundamental principle. So this is another important policy or feature of the NEP. Now, the CBSE is emphasizing, this is important. This is important. The CBSE is emphasizing this in the schools affiliated with it, but always remember, whenever you're reading a passage, focus on connectors such as but, however, although. But why limit it to schools affiliated with one board? Just read this. You read this. And this is ultimately which I think is the problem that the author is having. That on the one hand, you might want to promote multilingualism, but why are we just limiting it to one board, a certain section, which is schools affiliated with the CBSE board? Why not make it available for some other schools, schools affiliated with a different board. All of that information, I'm sure, will be given ahead. So this here is a very important piece of information. I'm just highlighting it. This is a bullet point for you, right? This may also be the right time to think of children whose mother tongue finds no place in schools with no books or teachers. There are also children whose mother tongue has no script yet. One cannot ignore such realities or neglect the situation in a majority of government or municipal schools while advocating for multilingualism. So there is a paradox that exists. In the passage, there is a paradox. There are two contradictory things happening. On the one hand, the NEP emphasizes promoting multilingualism, but on the other, multilingualism in schools is not really being that pervasive or inclusive. It is not reaching to everybody, right? It is not accessible for everybody here, right? So this is very important, right? They are keen to learn multiple languages and certainly have the aptitude. Again, now from here till this point here, again, I will not really suggest you to, deep dive into it and just think what the author might want to say here. Again, we have another transitional word, which is but. But they need teachers, regular, properly trained ones at the right teacher-student ratio who understand their socio-cultural environment and aren't constantly anxious about whether they'll be retained the next year. If circulars alone had the power to change things, millions of children, mostly first generation learners, would have suffered humiliation, failure, and exclusion in the early years after independence when they were brought to the government schools by honest teachers. Do you know, students, what purpose this statement has in the passage? What utility this statement has in the passage? Essentially, what the author here is trying to emphasize is that whatever the features of NEP, unless you really implement it for what it is, you cannot expect a simple circular or a rule which is simply put in a piece of paper to have drastic impacts, right? Because if this were the case, if a circular or a rule that the NEP wished to come out with had so much power, then nobody from the first generation would have suffered a lot of, let's just say, insult or exclusion or ostracization, because this is what happened, especially when you did not particularly come from an English medium background, right? I haven't mentioned English medium even though if I haven't read it, I can still suggest that the author might, somewhat point towards this as a factor as well. How English is also so exclusionary these days, right? If you really are very comfortable with English language, then the education sector might really help you flourish. But what about the students for whom English is not their mother tongue? It is not their first language, right? What about the students who come from backgrounds, who particularly belong to communities where their language is not given a lot of preference, right? So whatever points I'm sharing right now, without even looking at the passage, this is called reading between the line, right? I'm not assuming, I'm reading between the line. I have some background information in my mind, so I know what it could be, right? So the imposition of compulsory English learning, what did I just say? Believe me, I did not even pay attention to English learning here, and right now it is here. Right? So the imposition of compulsory English learning without aligning it to children's spoken languages contributed to higher dropout rates and poor performance. A transplanted education system created by colonizers for a select few. Here the author possibly is referring to the formidable British Empire during those days when it was formidable, right? So they just wanted to create an education system for the select few, right? Created by colonizers for a select few, was extended to achieve universal access as envisioned in Article 45 of the Constitution. However, this information is what the Article 45 of the Constitution essentially says. The system cracked under its own weight, which means whatever vision the colonizers had, essentially it frustrated its very own principles, right? It could not achieve any of the desired outcome, right? With the fading out of the earlier generation of Gandhian teachers and idealist politicians, we became unable even to recruit teachers on time. Okay, again, I will not choose to read so much of what I've just read. Today, for most Indians, the power of language is synonymous with learning English, which means if you're comfortable with English as a language, then you really are a powerful speaker. Let me reframe it like that. Again, this is a very, very important statement. I can very likely make an inference question out of it. And I can make multiple inference questions from this passage. Inferences when I can just give you any one statement which I can remotely infer from the passage, put it amongst a list of options, and then ask you to choose the correct derivation from the passage, right? So today, for most Indians, the power of language is synonymous with learning English. What is it? Private, high fee charging schools are seen as the only hope of securing a bright future. Multilingualism might really help. It will certainly help nurture talent and skills, but not for everybody. You see how very often the author is coming back to the main point that multilingualism is fine. Problem is, it should be accessible for everybody, but that's not happening. It is only ideally on the surface level accessible for those who already are comfortable with English as a language, who are comfortable, who are already studying in the best schools, right? Private schools, high fee charging schools, right? But not in schools that have teachers who believe in the lifelong learning, but only in schools that have teachers who believe in lifelong learning and a management system that ensures the regular presence of trained teachers with the necessary language skills. So multilingualism, if you really want to go ahead with it, it can be very selective because not every teacher would want to promote it. Some teachers might just teach for the sake of teaching, right? Because it might just earn them salary, right? At times, the rhetoric becomes too grand, and this is exactly what I just read. So we will choose to skip this, right? So what the author is trying to say is this problem has persisted for a long period of time. What does multilingualism mean for children studying in such under-resourced schools, right? So does it really serve any purpose at all, right? Because it only looks good on paper, but when you look at it in the practical sense, in reality, it is not quite able to achieve the vision it has, right? So again, now here, the author is citing somebody's opinion, which is the late CJI, Justice J.S. Verma. He highlighted this in 2012. He unequivocally, again this word, which means without any doubt, right? Without any doubt, objectively, he stated that over 10,000 B.Ed colleges were essentially selling degrees, right? Which means you're just selling degree for the sake of it. You're not really selling degree because you want to teach somebody something. So what should a real priority be? Should it be to really promote multilingualism? Or do you want to just recruit teachers who have earned their degrees? Or do you just want to ensure that schools are functional, right? So whatever purpose you come to a school for, that is happening, that is materializing. So again, what the author is saying is he just has a lot of dilemma about the authenticity of the idea of promoting multilingualism because it is not accessible for everybody, because it is really very exclusive in reality. The keyword, it is exclusive. I can frame an option containing it, right? What if I tell you one option is multilingualism in reality is exclusionary or exclusive? Can this point be inferred? Yes, absolutely. This is how we fashion questions out of an article, right? And students, let me just tell you, maybe this is the first time that I'm doing this session, so I'm reading everything word for word. But going forward, from the second article onwards, I would just tell you some of the important points only through which alone you'll be able to understand the passage. Right? Now, read this part. And this is the conclusion. Focus on the introduction, but sometimes the introduction cannot be that substantial, right? The second paragraph here was a little more substantial because it did tell us what essentially the author is trying to emphasize. And the conclusion says, in striving to match international benchmarks and meet the aspirations, let us not forget a constitutional obligation to provide equitable education to all. Right? Again, this information, it's okay, right? You don't really have to, rack your brains over this. But read further. I must emphasize that instead of focusing disproportionately on a privileged section, and here you have your main idea reiterated. What we are doing is we're just focusing disproportionately. We're just trying to promote multilingualism in a very exclusive manner, which is especially for schools that are affiliated with CBSE board, right? To focusing disproportionately on a privileged section like CBSE affiliated schools, the more underserved should not be ignored, which means what about the children studying in schools associated with other boards? In doing this, we are essentially ignoring them and their wants and requirements, right? Let children learn in the language they're most comfortable with. Let us not impose one singular language on them, right? Let them decide the rest as they grow. Unburden them instead of overwhelming them with yet another circular. So, in reality, it's better if you implement it at the grassroots level. So, just make sure that whatever language you're trying to promote, ensure that it is inclusive for everybody, right? So, this essentially is the main idea of the passage. Whatever pieces of information that I've highlighted here, you just have to read this much, right? And in total, if you are to ask me, this passage should not take more than 4 to 5 minutes to understand, right? Suppose a passage of a similar length in nature gets asked in the examination, give no more than 4 to 5 minutes to reading it. Or if you want, if you can sort of just course correct and improve your speed, you can do so under 2.5 to 3 minutes as well, right? So that's about the first editorial reading here. Hope you have understood everything. Going forward, I will give you questions as well through which you'll be able to answer a lot of important questions. I could ask you a question based on tones also, right? So what essentially is the author's tone here? What is the author's attitude, right? Can I say that the author is being objective? No. But can I say he's being critical of the education sector right now? Absolutely yes. Because of so many keywords that I've highlighted, right? He has so many questions that he's asking us. He is expressing a lot of doubts about it. He's already said uncomfortable. That's a keyword that tells me that he has concerns, that he has some criticism that he wants to render about the main topic here, right? So this is how we are going to proceed going ahead, right? So I'll suggest you wait for the next session as well, wherein I will decode another article for you, right? And we as a team are available everywhere. On social media, we are on Instagram, YouTube, Telegram. You may just reach out to us with this information. And any comments and any feedback is very welcome in the comment section. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.